It appears at this point flying Thursday morning up to Bellingham to help Reza Labayan, who has practiced with us and at Aravipa, enter his Shusho at Red Cedar Zen. So I'll be co-leading it with Tim Burnett. And so on Thursday, we will be here. We're going to do a service here. We'll all be here sitting. And Erica will be talking to us online. And then I'll be back on Tuesday. January 28th, we are having a half-day sitting and a Sangha meeting at my house outside of Sebastopol, between Sebastopol and Occidental. And we just talked about, we'll put it in the newsletter, open the registration for Tassajara for the summer, July. I can't remember what the dates are. But if we were pretty bountiful last year, so if you're interested, please let us know.
Yeah, you can send.
Yeah, to Gretchen. Yeah, we'll put a link. And thank you as always for being our faithful registrar. That's not a small thing. Yeah. Buddha's teachings on social and communal harmony. Someone said to me recently, she really wanted to come to Sangha, but she felt bad because she didn't read the books. You don't need to read the books. Please read the books if you'd like to. I take that as my responsibility, and then if you want to go further or deeper with it, please do. But please don't ever not be here because you didn't read a book or think you should. So what I want to do and continue to do, we talked some on Thursday about anger, and I wanted to bring that here too. One, because people seem to appreciate it, and two, it does seem to be something that we all need to meet in ourselves and our culture. I remember a long time ago someone saying, maybe it was Sharon Salzberg, or that the one question she was asked the most about in Buddhism is anger. And I have a feeling it was, if I'm remembering correctly, which I may not, it's because the illusion is that all Buddhists we're just calm, we're chill, it's like we got over ourselves, whatever. And probably people are saying, so what? Okay. So what I am enjoying is Buddha's teachings are clearly the root traditions of our tradition. The source comes from Shakyamuni Buddha, although there were Buddhas before Buddha, and all Buddhas are, in essence, including us, bringing forward, enacting in their particular time, the teachings for the benefit of all beings. And there has never been, and probably will never be, a time when we don't need to think about and enact how do we be in community together with each other, starting with ourselves in our close-in relationships in the grocery store line, the relationships that's on the news, the relationships in the world. It is impossible to not be in relationship. And so thus we all need a little help. So I'm going to, and I did this, I'll probably repeat some of what happened on what I said on Thursday, the core teachings as Bhikkhu Bodhi brings them forward. And then, how have these teachings continued forward through different traditions, not just through Zen, not just through Theravadan, not just through the Pali, not just through Tibetan, but how are they being brought forward now? How are they? The question always is what's this got to do with now and how we live on this earth? So let me bring forward the words of the Buddha, and then I want to, the Lojong teachings, Tibetan, one of the greatest texts for training the mind. Tibetan 12th century and based on 10th century Indian master Atisha. Practical, hands-on cultivation of compassion and resilience. It's just important to know that our questions have been questions across space and time. And the teachings are in response to this deep, heartfelt yearning for there to be peace and for love to be enacted in our time. And so the book I'm going to use is Training in Compassion, Zen Teachings on the Practice of Lojong by Norman Fisher. But there are many other commentaries too. I just happen to have this one close by. So in the introduction, Chapter 3, Dealing with Anger, from Bhikkhu Bodhi. Among the mental defilements disruptive to social harmony, probably the most pernicious is anger. Since virtually all communities, including Buddhist monasteries, consist of people still prone to egoistic desires, they are in constant danger of being riven by anger, resentment, and vindictiveness among their members. Important to note, I've lived in a monastery, excuse me. There's no place you're going to get away to that you're not going to meet human beings. The Buddha recognizes that while giving vent to anger brings a certain degree of satisfaction, self-righteousness, he points out that angry outbursts ultimately bounce back upon oneself, entailing direct harm for oneself and entangling one in conflict with others. Since the Buddha seeks the solution to human problems with the aid of the principle of causality to help us understand more clearly why anger arises, he lays out 10 grounds for resentment. I'm going to bring those forward. The establishment of communal harmony requires that the members of the community strive to overcome anger. The first step in removing anger lies in reflecting on the dangers of anger. I'll bring forward some of the Buddha's words here. Because anger poses such a formidable threat to one's well-being, the Buddha proposes a variety of methods for removing anger. These are really on-the-ground, very real teachings. It's like he saw it in front of him, and he didn't go around it. And then, underlying the multiplicity of techniques to be deployed against anger stands one cardinal virtue: patience, kshanti. I feel so humble. And I think part of it is also Western temperament, you know? It's like we push at things, we push at time, we push at ourselves, we push it. So patience, and we're going to have the teachings, the training, the Lojong have a lot about patience and a lot about resentment. So again, it's not your personal problem. This is a collective gift to help wake us all up. So let me just bring you a couple of things. The grounds for resentment. How many people here know that they experience resentment? Maybe at least once in your lifetime. So we all know a little bit about resentment, right? The Buddha says there are 10 grounds for resentment. What 10? 1, thinking. They acted for my harm, harbors resentment. Ever thought something like that?
They what?
They acted for my harm. That person was out to get me. I mean, in one way, or you could say it's thinking they are acting for my harm. They are not only out to get me, they are doing something to get me in one way or another. Thinking they did act for my harm. they acted for the harm of one who is pleasing and agreeable to me. They're not trying to hurt me, but they're trying to hurt my family or come at me through some other way. They are acting for the harm of one who is pleasing and agreeable to me. They are acting to do it. They have done it. It goes on and on. So they're all minor. Either they're trying to get you, or they're trying to get your family, and they're thinking about it. They did it, or they're doing it. And then the last one is 10. Becoming angry without a reason. Then, 10 ways to eliminate resentment. Basically just says that if you take each one of those things and it doesn't happen, if the cause and effect is this, then that. Without that, then there isn't this. It's just roll it back. When it arises, what happens if you don't believe it? What if you more and more train your mind? As in number 10, one does not become angry without a reason. I think I'm experiencing anger right now. I can't at this moment find anything if I bring it back, but anger has arisen. I'm humbled by how much in my life there's an undercurrent of anger, and I think it's in our culture, and it's been a great motivator for my practice because I don't want to hurt people, and the anger's there probably because I was hurt and I saw other people get hurt. It's the same thing, and I just want to cultivate loving kindness. I don't want to, through this particular person, to perpetuate this. So it's very active practice. Patience, I'm fogging up. How do you find patience when you're provoked? Being patient when you're criticized. Ooh. Buddha says, monks, you should train thus. Our mind will remain unaffected, and we shall utter no evil words. We shall abide compassionate for the welfare of the person who is criticizing us, with a mind of loving kindness and without inner hate. We shall abide pervading that person with a mind imbued with loving kindness, and starting with him, we shall abide pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. This is how you should train, monks. And non-retaliation. Do you remember in the Lotus Sutra the Buddha never despised? They'll throw stones at me, they'll say things at me, but no matter what you do, I'm going to see you as a Buddha. No matter what you do, you're a Buddha. You're a Buddha. The Venerable Shariputra told the monks, so then, if others abuse, revile, scold, and harass a monk, the monk understands thus. This painful feeling born of ear contact has arisen in me. Came in through your ears. This sound came in through the ears. It made contact with this human ear. All the karma came up, all the stories. It stirred all the seeds. It is dependent on contact. Then he sees that contact is impermanent. That feeling is impermanent. That perception is impermanent. That volitional activities are impermanent, and that consciousness is impermanent. And the mind, having made an element its objective support, enters into new objective support, and acquires confidence, steadiness, and resolution. In other words, instead of going into the same old karmic loops, you take a breath and you come back to everybody's a Buddha, and I just made a vow to cultivate and live with loving kindness. And one more. Patience over punishment. I'm going to get back at that person one way or another, either actively or I'm much better at resistance. I just hunker down into resistance. I hope you all know kind of how you do it. Some of us have cold anger, some of us have hot anger. Here's a quote by Saka, the lord of the devas, that Buddha quotes. One who repays an angry person with anger thereby makes things worse for themselves. Not repaying an angry person with anger, one wins a battle hard to win. This person practices for the welfare of both, their own and the others. When knowing that their foe is angry, this person mindfully maintains their peace. When this person achieves the cure of both his own and the others, the people who consider this person a fool are unskilled in the Dharma. So again, Bodhisattva never despised, they made fun of him. Like, did you not just see what that person did to you? Why are you not lashing back? What are you going to do about it? This is not to say, this is not passive. This is very active practice. Okay, so now we're going to go to Lezhang, and we're going to go to Norman Fisher's commentary, modern day commentary. A primary practice in Lezhang is transforming bad circumstances into the path. Whatever you get, like it, don't like it, good, bad, how do you transform it into practice, into acting for the benefit of all beings? It's associated with the practice of patience. Patience is the capacity to welcome difficulty when it comes. Whoa. Whoa. Oh, look what's here. With a spirit of strength, endurance, forbearance, and dignity, rather than fear, anxiety, and avoidance. Which means you really have to study the self. You really have to study fear and know your own fear reactions, what anxiety feels like in the body, and where a reactivity gets triggered because there's something that just happened in your nervous system, and which is either lashing out or avoidance, which is pulling away. Study the self. None of us likes to be oppressed or defeated. Yet if we can endure oppression and defeat with strength without whining, we are ennobled by it. We become more like a Buddha. This is not stoicism. This is being tenderized because you really study it and understand the old ways that we've been doing it is suffering. Patience makes this possible. And still in our culture we think of patience as passive and unglamorous. The practice of patience is simple enough. When difficulty arises, notice the obvious and not so obvious ways we try to avoid it. You've got habit patterns. I've got habit patterns. Study them with deep compassion. The things we say and do, the subtle ways in which our very bodies recoil and clench when someone says or does something to us that we don't like. Ooh. To practice patience is to simply notice these things and to be fiercely present with them. Taking a breath helps. Returning to mindfulness of the body helps, rather than reacting to them and flailing around. Paying attention to body, paying attention to mind. And I would just say, pay attention to reactivity. Really. Ooh. Really know what it looks like and tastes like in your body and heart and mind. And when possible, give ourselves good teachings about the virtue of being with rather than trying to run away from the anguish we are feeling in this moment. That's why we need vows in whatever way you understand them. Because it's always, I remember hearing with first responders that are trained to go towards difficulties. If you're not trained, you're always going to go for the most habitual, easy response. Okay, here's another one of the slogans. Be patient either way. Either way reminds us that we have to practice patience not only when things are tough, but also when they are not. If good things will go well, if things go well, be patient, they'll change. If things go badly, be patient, they'll change. Don't get caught in your complacency when things are going well. Whoa, I got it now. I think I can relax a little. I mean, please relax all the time. But things are going well. Be really happy things are going well and wish that everybody, things can go well for them. And then don't be, I think a major practice is to stop being shocked when things, quote, don't go well. It's like, things were going so well. What went wrong here? Something wrong must have happened. I must have done something wrong. Somebody must have done something wrong. Of just like, oh, well, look what's here now. Don't get caught in your complacency when things are going well. If you can keep that in mind, then you probably won't lose it so easily when things go badly. The two go together. Receive whatever happens with as even a mind as possible. This is called practice. And last but not least, I love this slogan. It's funny that the patient one doesn't stick with me as much, although I know it, but the one about resentment. So you can pick up whichever part of these stays with you. One of the slogans is, stay close to your resentment.
To what?
To your resentment. It is here probably to remind us yet again that there is no escaping human problems, most of which come not so much from situations and other people as from our reactions to situations and other people. I love looking and seeing when I am completely in my own reactivity, and I'm sure that it's a solid truth, and I look around and other people are not reacting the way that I am. It's really helpful. Oh, this is just a karmic reaction. And that there's a whole range of possibilities here. But we just keep feeding it through our limited perception and our stories. And of course, if we pay attention, we realize that our storyline and the way things come in is actually, compared to what's possible, really quite narrow and repetitive. And then we keep being surprised. Among these reactions is resentment, which automatically takes us outside ourselves, leaping over our minds and what is going on in them to highly uncomplimentary evaluations of situations and other people. Evaluations that make us tied up in knots. Resentment is a nasty feeling. But this slogan is telling you that resentment is the greatest of all meditation obstacles. Far from feeling entangled in it and frustrated with that entanglement, we could celebrate it. Oh, resentment. Think about it. What is resentment after all? What happens when you stop projecting outwardly because we are always resentful of something or someone out there? If that would just change, if that person would just stop, if that person didn't just win the elections, if that is, it goes on and on and on. Even if it is life or ourselves, as if we were outside ourselves, and turn around to look at the resentment face to face to find out what is it. Can you look resentment in the face and see what it is? Can you feel the feelings and watch the thinking, your actions unfold? This is a practice of radical honesty and of radical kindness. Because if you're just doing this to have one more reason to be resentful about who you are and what you think you didn't do, then you're just going to keep it going this way instead of this way. Deep kindness and curiosity. The investigation of resentment and all afflictive emotions is the most powerful and most beneficial of all practices. The peace that we are all seeking is less than half as good as the peace that we are all seeking is less than half as good as the investigation of resentment, anger, greed, fear, and so on. These are basic, visceral human emotions, and they are our greatest treasure. So we should always stay close when they arise in us, so that we can meditate on them. Straight from the Buddha. Don't avoid it. Pay attention to it and study it. I was just thinking that I'm going to put you in small groups. My own personal story is that when I went to Zen Center as a young woman full of uninvestigated emotions and feelings, it looked to me, and I think I was pretty accurate, that mostly nobody else was investigating or wanting to feel things. That Zen, at that point in time, was well, in the words of John Wellwood, a spiritual bypass. I think spiritual communities often do that. We just all want to look good, and we're kind of in competition, and there's some idea of who we think we should be. And Sutra Malioni, who I talked about on Thursday, really, who was a Tibetan teacher and a woman, she talked about emotions. Nobody talked about that back then. And it changed my life. It enabled me to come back to this beautiful tradition and realize, well, there's room for everything here. This is all-inclusive practice. And I think the pure practice of confession, of, oh, yes, I am a human being. It's one of the sweetest, kindest things that we can do for ourselves and everybody else. And then we take a breath, and then maybe we say, like we might do in the next group, in the groups that I'm going to put you in, yeah, I know about resentment. This is how it feels and tastes in my body and mind. And I'm practicing with it, and this is how. Or patience. I am really not a patient person. It is not one of my lead qualities. But I also know that I can sit on a cushion, and I can show up, and I can practice and come back over and over and over again. So it does change, and I know a little bit more than I used to, and maybe I think I'm a more patient person than I used to be. So how about, I'm going to put you in small groups, and see what you want to share. What do you know about patience, impatience, resentment, practicing with anger? Okay? And you'll have maybe 15 minutes